This is Mercy TV, Wednesday night meeting, first of October.
Hello and welcome to it. We hope everybody out there is staying dry, but mostly folks with gardens to worry about are having a particularly rough time due to both the wind and the rain. Folks are having their outdoor gardening areas getting trashed and wrecked. And worse off, exposed plants are getting molds, they're getting damp, and they're not getting a chance. They get bud rot, it's called. And what are the signs there, PK? What are the things folks should look for?
Well, it turns brown and it's a gray, fuzzy rot. You trim it off the bud. After harvest, you harvest the bud. When you separate, doing the first manicure, taking off the sun leaves, and that you'll find where the brown spot or the gray fuzzy, and you could clip that off. And you clip it off till you see all green. And you just took care of the rot.
So once you see this happening, you harvest the plant?
You harvest that bud.
Oh, that bud. You cut that bud off then?
Yeah.
And then dry it out and trim it, or?
Well, I take the sun leaves off and that,
You trim it at that time?
well, I take the bud off. I take a series of buds off, all the large ones, because you're getting bud rot and the other buds are going to be getting that. You don't lose that much product, but if you got it, it could spread quickly. So you just take it off. It's raining too much. I'm in a sheltered area.
Right.
So
the thing to do is to cut off the infected areas there. But what do you do with those? Do you trim them then at that point to get rid of that mold, or you let it dry and cure first and then trim it, or?
when I'm taking, I fill up a basket with the bud from the plant. When A10, and then a skunk and a blueberry. I took off the top buds, put in the basket. This is each plant separately. Hang them up. The next day in the light, trim off all the sun leaves. At this time I find the rot. I trim that off, but I trim that into a bag, a paper bag. So it's separate from the leaf. I save the leaf to make butter if it's necessary, or
Not with the rotted stuff.
no, that's why I put it in a bag. I trim it off into the bag.
Okay.
Then from there, I take that into the curing room and I hang it up with a label on each end of the section of bud. in a couple weeks or in a week, I can take off the lower buds and put him into the section and cure him out.
Okay. So it sounds like the answer then is to pretty much trim it right away after you've seen the infected area, and as PK was describing, it's a brown mold area, which can
gray,
become
fuzzy.
gray with a furry looking appearance there. You want to cut off the affected buds and trim them right away, and then let them finish curing before utilizing them otherwise. So that's what the folks are going through right now with the rainy, premature rainy season. It's a lot wetter than it's supposed to be at this time usually. So gardeners, outdoor gardeners, are experiencing that issue now with this increased precipitation. And in addition, with the windstorms, it's also wreaking havoc on folks. So good luck to you out there. If you have questions or comments, you have a tip for somebody out there going through this, please give us a contact here, and we'll spread the information, spread the word. So either visit us on the web at www.mercycenters.org, or give us a call at 503-363-4588 in the Salem area. Or if you are in the Salem area, you can come on down to the office at 1745 Capitol Street Northeast. And the office is open noon to 6, Monday through Friday. And there you can bring your information, and we'll try to get it shared out both here and in printed media and through our webpage to help others in the same situation. So folks are dealing with their gardens. They are coming to the in the outdoor, coming to the end, whether they like it or not, of their growth cycle. In some cases, just because the temperature and the sun's decreasing, but others because they've had the windstorm or the rain to come in to affect it, and otherwise force them to action earlier than they'd hoping for. So folks will be looking to alternatives. They may want to go out and check out dispensaries or other possibilities for excess medicine, maybe prematurely, or they end up with a big crop failure, so have to go out and check out the resources.
Well, isn't there a meeting up at Sam's up in Portland, cannabis friendly, on the 9th?
No, on the 9th it's looking to be an action item, a protest demonstration, possibly acts of civil disobedience. Folks will be medicating in defiance of Good Sam's policy, is what it's sounding like. So we'll certainly get the information on that to folks who want to participate in it, or certainly just more information on the points involved and how folks can protest to Good Sam about this if they can't make the protest rally action item happening on the 9th. Stay tuned for to our website for the exact address and more details, press release, contact information, other things that you can do to support this action involving, which is described as the Good Samaritan Cannabis Appreciation Day. And I think the issue may be that they don't appreciate cannabis as medicine, and so there needs to be some education done accordingly. So help out with that, folks, if you can. Stay tuned for more information about that. Also, concerning dispensaries in Oregon, there's a meeting that's happening on October 18th, and that is to review the rules and regulations being promulgated concerning medical marijuana facilities, which will undoubtedly be referred to as dispensaries, like it or not. But these MMFs are going to be established, made available, and the Rules Advisory Committee is meeting on a regular basis to discuss all the aspects that they can, that's certainly within their purview, regarding this upcoming medical marijuana facility law implementation. It's going to be implemented, it's expected to happen on March 1st, 2014. Another big change that's coming to the program is that PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is being added as qualifying conditions to the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program, or the OMMP. And that's going to take effect on January 2014.
We got guests tonight.
Oh, goody.
Here, have a seat. Are you expecting to get medicine?
No, we were actually just here to find growers.
Oh, to match up? Okay, well, we'll get to that here in a sec. An important notice, new OMMP fee structure, changes effective October 1st, 2013. Cardholders on SNAP or receiving food stamp assistance will have the fees to register with the program is reduced from 100 to 60. Cardholders on OHP will now have fees reduced from 100 to 50. Folks, the regular cardholder application is going to remain at 200. For SSI is 20. They're still charging $50 for a grow site registration fee. That is where the patient is not their own grower. And the fee for replacement is still $100 or $20 for those who qualify for the 20 reduced fee. All right, we talked about the Rules Advisory Committee meeting that's happening on the 18th, where they're going to discuss the rules and regulations for dispensaries. A lot of folks are contacting us about setting those up. What are the rules? Where can they find the resources for it? And we're telling them to stay tuned here to Mercy TV, because we will be recording these meetings and posting them up to YouTube, other places where folks can see the process and hopefully affect it positively. Folks can also stay tuned to here on Channel 23 in the Salem area. Friday nights, 7 p.m., we have our live call-in show, and we'll certainly be updating folks on the status of bills, both currently implementing and proposed bills that'll be happening here in the Oregon and across the nation as well. So stay tuned. Now we're going to get to our the purpose of the meeting here, which is to do outreach, to help desk, and to network on the issues folks are facing concerning medical cannabis here in Salem and throughout Oregon. First off, it's folks getting their card, and then after they get their card, they need some medicine now in the short term. In the long term, they want to either get growing themselves or to find a grower. And of course, there's issues with medicating, best forms and methods on it, as well as changes, whether or not they making a change themselves or they want to have a positive effect on changing the system, like adding PTSD, which we did this year. For the process of matching patients and growers, we invite folks to attend this weekly meeting that we have here. This is the best time and place to do that. We gather contact information during the week, but we encourage folks to come here and to meet up and to go over all the parameters they should be aware of when going through the process. So typically we try to survey our crowd as it's here tonight and see how many growers we have in general, and then hopefully how many growers can take on patients. I know we have PK who's a grower here, so that's good news. You folks, you're looking for a grower?
Yes.
Yes.
Have you had a grower before?
No, we've been looking since January when we got our cards.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So the process is one is networking. You need to start with the online avenues, which are as easiest to go through. We have a list of forums on our website, so visit mercycenters.org and check that out. Also, all the meetings and meetups like this, where you have an opportunity to connect with growers and to talk about the issues. And of course, there's the organizations which also have services for doing meetups.
So, on your card, you're your own grower, or you had somebody?
We both wrote our own name, didn't you?
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully we can match you up with a grower that has patients already, and you won't need to change that over just yet.
Okay.
When you do, it may be possible to put the grow site address down and your name down as the grower. Again, if the grower has other patients to provide protection. That would save you that $50 grower registration fee in that case. Just a little item when you're going through that. Have you talked with any growers before? Have you had any experience with looking for a grower?
We went to a meeting at a local dispensary that we go to and spoke with a guy that knew about growers possibly taking patients, but
Nothing came of it.
came of it.
Yeah, we've been going every week for a while trying to get a grower on there.
Mhm.
When they try to have growers meet there with people looking.
So they have a regular meeting time and place that they try to perform this function, this service?
Yeah, it's that one in Kaiser, just because that's the closest to where we live, that we've gone to the most. It's just a couple blocks away, actually.
But you haven't been able to try any other places, just that one?
We've gone other places
Mhm.
to get medicine and but most of them are not as are less of a meeting place, it seems, than that one is.
Okay. Yeah, it's best if the patient and grower can meet in an informal atmosphere as possible and discuss all the things that they need to. When you had your discussions, did they? I presume that you talked primarily about how much medicine you're going to need and how much support you can give to the garden.
We didn't get that far.
No. Well, those are two things that we generally advise patients and the growers to have in mind, because those are the two primary elements that you'll want to make sure you have an understanding on. Oh, hey, there's some more folks here.
How's it going?
So just a quick survey, are you guys looking for a grower?
Yeah.
Okay, so we also do, yeah. So you start off online generally, go to the, like all the forums that you can. Some of them have registration fees, so obviously you don't want to throw money into something like that. We don't yet have our online where you can say I'm looking for a grower, and we have another one that we're working on it where online you can put in that you're looking for a grower, I'm looking for a patient, and I can give this many ounces of medicine, and expecting this much in my monthly donation or rent or whatever you call it. Those are the two primary things you want to try to match up folks on. Then other things like location, deliverability. Do I have to, go somewhere? And other things like you certainly don't want the grower to like just chop the plant and hand it to you. Now you've got a drying plant in your area, which doesn't work much better than having a growing garden there. And if you're a patient that needs it, needs processing, you need to have baked goods, you need cookies, something like that. The cooking process may not be doable in your area, so your expectation is that your grower or somebody like that is going to do it. Although generally, if you have a caregiver or another individual, that's somebody that can do that for you as well. So those are some other things that you may want to make sure of when you're talking with your grower, potential grower, and signing up. It's always good to try to meet in a neutral location. If possible, not meet the grower at your house or where you plan to grow, if you're going to have a grower come in and do it, nor do you want to go at their grow site, the garden. Usually not too anxious about having potential people there, really.
You want to keep the traffic down to the
Sure.
bare minimum.
All that fun things, but if you can otherwise verify that, in most cases they'll have some sample medicine for you. They can certainly network it to you, they can give it to you. Where some folks get into trouble is when they try to get funding in return for it. There's no exchange for consideration. So that's the toughest thing for folks that just got their card. They're out there trying to network and get medicine right now. The only legal ones is for someone to just hand you some medicine and you make a donation to their organization. There was a time earlier where the U.S. attorney was sending letters out to all the landlords who had facilities, even nonprofits like us. And in that letter they stated that making a donation for the medicine was something that was not covered by the OMA. So separating the money and the medicine is a key element of networking. Which is why some of the places fall afoul or potentially of it. Any facility where they've got menus where they have weights and amounts discussed there, whether it's in a printed form or they talk about it in the place once you paid all your membership dues and day use fees and other things that they put you through and all. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's any growers here this evening to match up with folks. We do have some growers here, so you can talk about the expectation that you have. I can only give this so much to rent. I have this is the kind of medicine I need. This is the kind of strain I'm looking for. This is, some other parameters. And see, how that's working with their current garden system. If you do meet a grower and they need plants or other resources, even space, sometimes you can find a grower, but he doesn't have room in their current garden location. Is a grower limited to 4 patients period or 4 patients at a given location?
4 patients, but then you can have a multiple of growers at that one location as well.
But the grower is limited to 4 patients. There was a time where a grower could have more than 4 patients, but only 4 at a location, but they've tightened up that rule, unfortunately. Which is a shame because we don't have too many viable grow experts out there.
Yeah, it seems like usually when we go looking for growers, they end up having a lot of people looking for growers and not really hardly any growers there.
Yeah, when we have growers show, they're usually snatched up at that night. We don't usually have folks coming back again as growers there. So we'll, like I said, continue to work on our system. We used to have a form that folks would show up, the patients or the growers, I'm looking for, la la la. We'd file it away. It didn't work out as well as we'd liked. We've got a thing this thick of patients and no growers is what we ended up with. We'll work on that online side, but that only works for folks who have online and still isn't going to be as effective.
Is there sites or networks online that you'd recommend?
Yeah, we have a list of forums, a forum page. If you go to mercycenters.org, at the top it says forums.
Okay.
Also meetings and meetups like this, the ones that we're aware of. There's also the Oregon Cannabis Connection, which we have next door, so you can come and grab that. It's got all that information too, and again the list of organizations. So probably that, hopefully that outfit Shu went through is here, as well as others. So yeah, there's the online, the meetings and meetups, and organizations. Other ones working on it. Plus, and I don't know, it's not hooked up at our meetings page or the forums, but there's some online classified ads sections. Where are they at? Our links page has those.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to check you guys out online.
Yeah. It's worth a look.
Yeah.
It's where we store all the information we can.
Cool.
Yeah. But encourage folks to add to it. You know, our community has had a rough patch here for the past year. There's been a lot of raids, particularly on groups and individuals who've been particularly successful. Particularly Southern Oregon got hit really hard. You may have seen it in the news.
Are there federal raids?
Huh?
You mean federal raids? Like,
No, there was actually a combo. I think the Happy High Hopes Farm, which is about 8 months ago, I think that was DEA. But the latest one, the Southern Oregon, Normal, the Medford, and Eugene, the greener side, that was a conglomerate of a whole bunch of different, not just the DEA and the feds, but Homeland Security, all the county locals they could, all the township locals, and even the public safety was listed in there. There was 18 different agencies involved in it, 70 agents total, 70 cops. And it's particularly egregious that at the same time they're doing this with this massive manpower, all these agencies, there's a recording. It's and we got it on the website, the link there. This is a gal dialing 911 trying to get help because her ex is breaking in, and they're out and telling them, sorry, we have nobody to send to you. You know, we're all busting 6 places with maybe a dozen sick and dying people. You know, what the hell? It was crazy. So we're put out the information on that and certainly go over the do's and don'ts, what they're charged with, what got these folks in trouble. Mainly was having more than 99 plants in one location, even though it was 25 for this patient and 25 for that and all. The feds take the total number of plants there and charge everybody with that count. And keeping a good attorneys on hand and getting into the network. One thing we can do is at every hearing that they have to fill the courtroom, to do our own media. And certainly we can affect, during the election cycle coming up November, a lot of these judges and DAs and everybody, and some areas police chiefs, certainly funding for some of these groups, police groups doing this stuff, all comes up for voting. So we want to hit them here in 2013 and take all the voter registration and organization into 2014, where we're going to see more bills in play. we may see legislation. I mean, like a legalization. You know, and that would be nice.
Yeah.
Cut the crud altogether. Of course, failing that, there'll be regular caravans up to Washington State as soon as they get their operations going, I'm sure. I would no doubt that we'll organizing it here. And as we were talking earlier, there's the dispensary bill in Oregon. And that will be going into effect March 1st, 2014. There's a Rules Advisory Committee meeting going on a regular basis to go over the rules and regs and so forth. We capture them, put them on our website and so forth, and report on it here at this meeting and our Friday night live show, everything else we can. We will be advising folks on this, pointing them to resources, attorneys, accountants, all the other fun things to do this, as well as look at doing this ourselves. The thing about it is that we certainly won't be able to do it as a nonprofit, because we can't do anything for profit as a nonprofit, as well as our philosophy of wanting to teach to fish. You know, we don't want to fish for you. We don't want to get you dependent and always coming here and making a donation and taking some medicine up. We want you to get growing yourself and to bring your excess. We want to hand you clones and have you come back with clones on a regular basis. I mean, that's how we got started. That's how we formed this thing. Like 10 years ago, we were a bunch of patients and so forth, struggling to find the grower, struggling to, once we did get a grower or get resources, get plants, to get better at it, you know, to find out, take this information we knew from strains and grow methodologies and applying it, you know, to making the oils and the butters and the other things, you know. Whole plant extract, you know, using the whole thing, getting the most out of it.
But we'll definitely
Okay.
check out your website.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
grab the Cannabis Connection from next door
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Yeah, stay tuned on the web. We'll see you there.
Okay, thanks.
So, yeah, I mean, you guys starting off, you gotta, you know, get those resources now for your medicine. You got other issues, possibly to deal with. Possibly, you know, employment. You got to work there. You got family. You may have social connections, issues that come about because of it. You may at some point wonder about traveling not just traveling within Oregon. Certainly, you know, I can take it in my car, right? You know, what are the basic possession rules and laws? But also, if you wanted to go outside the state, you know, even God forbid, get on a plane or something like that, you know.
So what is like, what if like she has her card, but
Mhm.
we're like transporting plants and we get pulled over? Is like, is there anything like she say I'm a medical patient, I'm just transporting them back to, you know,
Exactly.
my facility to grow? How does that work out? Can she still get in trouble for that, or are they just gonna say, oh, she's a medical?
No, I mean, if you're a patient, if you've got your paperwork, whether, you know, your copies and the certified thing or the card when it comes, yeah, you can be in possession of the plants. It's advisable to keep it out of public view, though,
Yeah.
so keep them covered. Same thing was if you have them in your backyard, you know, you just got started, or you're in what we frequently try to do is to get as many people as well involved with the program as possible. So even if folks aren't in a position to have a garden, if you can set your address as a garden site, you can store plants there.
Okay, that's what we did when she was filling out her
Mhm.
card. She didn't exactly have a grow sign at the time or a
Right.
grower, so she put hers and then our address,
Mhm.
so we can still store plants.
So if we have a team of folks, then one person could be like a place where they can't do a grow really per se, but they can keep babies. They can keep all the little starters and clones and all. When they get to a certain point, then somebody else has a facility with all the teenagers. And somebody else may have it with all the growing thing, and somebody else has got the kitchen.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's stored there and all. And this is what a lot of folks are doing here in Oregon, establishing a place like this, and taking up one of your grow site addresses for your nonprofit organization building. Then once that's done, that building then you can keep plants there overnight. You can keep medicine overnight, because then whoever may be there, that place is legal for that to be there. Should the authority come in, oh, what's this doing here? Nonsense.
Okay.
So that's what we do. We build these coalitions of folks, these networks, to accomplish the things that need to be done at the various levels. So everybody, we fill up all the card slots. If someone doesn't have anybody for their caregiver, we try to find somebody there's an open slot. We can make somebody their caregiver, and we have protection then.
Okay.
See, and then that person can volunteer at the center, or be one of these transport people here. Can be one of the people in the network.
Yeah.
So, and even if they're not participating fully in the caregiving of that particular patient. So always networking we see them as abilities. Same with the grower spot, make somebody a grower, and then as a card holder, they can take care of, they can do all these functions. They can go and assist in the garden. They can go, they can help transport medicine. They can go caregive for somebody, even simple little things like packing the bowl for somebody, preparing their medicine, Then somebody can be one of these bakers, but in order to be in possession, you have to have that card holder status.
Yeah.
So always trying to make sure everybody's covered in the network there.
So as a caregiver, like as a patient, she can obviously consume it however she wants, but not in like public view. But
Right.
as a caregiver, you can handle it and everything, but you just can't exactly consume it. Is that what it is?
Correct. There's no
Okay.
coverage for that.
But you can like have medicine on you. Just
Yes.
not you can't be caught smoking it
Correct.
or however.
Consuming it in other manners, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which raises an interesting point. What if you have a medical?
Yeah,
Can consume that in public. It's like, well, why not? I mean, unless they, technically, if they don't know it's cannabis, then there's no harm.
Exactly.
So if you're smoking a joint, they can smell it, they can see it. Oh my God, he's smoking a joint. And there used to be a same rule about folks who, like diabetics, use a hypodermic needle for medicating. That was generally considered to be done outside of public view because it encourages youth to mimic it and all kinds of other stuff. Although I think that's kind of like a social taboo, like breastfeeding or something like that.
Yeah,
Just certain people are
exactly.
like, oh my God, okay, well, get used to it. I think so. So yeah, out of public view, yeah. Which it also brings up a side issue where if another cardholder caregiver assists the patient in medicating, even to the point of starting their joint, like getting it lit for them, there they whether or not they inhale, to quote our famous ex-president, or if you're even involved with it, you might test positive, and so what protections, what can we do within the law for those folks? And nothing right now. It can be dealt with a case-by-case basis, I imagine. Some folks are clearly scoffing the law, and others are, seriously following the law as best they can. And some folks are committing acts of civil disobedience. For them, it's a conscious action that they would be glad to go to court if they had to and defend their actions.
Yeah.
But they would have to go to court and defend their actions, which is not a cheap affair.
No.
Deliberately so. Okay. Gosh, what else? There's, the networking until the law changes. And we'll see what's possible with this medical marijuana facility. We know that you're going to be able to get excess medicine there, any card holder. That that's not going to replace or eliminate or negatively impact the current system. You can still grow your own. and still utilize the facility. It's not an either or like some places are trying to do it. You just need to be wary of your limitations. 24 ounces is your limit, which is 4 ounces for every plant.
Okay.
That's how that's figured. 6, 4, boom. And so you can't technically be outside that limit. You can't have 12 ounces in your car, 12 ounces at home, and 12 ounces on you. That's 36, 24 is your limit, so you're going to toodle. Now, what are the circumstances where that'd be a problem? You'd have to be, have a police incident where they'd start counting up,
Exactly.
So, follow the intent, the letter, not just the letter, but the intent of the law. A lot of folks, for example, pretty much every grower is out of compliance at harvest time, especially outdoor growers. Is he by the way in? Somebody was out there backing on the thing. Hold on a sec. Hello? I guess I was gonna share that. Okay. Hope you folks didn't go away. We're back. I only got 2 viewers online anyway. Where was I? Here.
I don't know.
So the growers, your limits, babies.
Oh, there's someone.
Oh, here we go.
How's it going, man?
Good, are you?
It is. Oh, hey, hello. How's it
Hello.
going?
I went all the way, walked
Oh, all the way around. No, just around the edge there.
They're all like, what the hell?
Have a seat.
Hey, welcome to our Wednesday night meeting. We're broadcasting and streamcasting, so don't blurt out your name and phone number and stuff unless you want it. Of course, mind you, the NSA/DEA has it all now. So, hello out there. Hope you enjoy wasting my tax dollars. And we're currently talking about matching up patients and growers and some of the other things that the community goes through. Gosh, I can almost remember that thing we were talking about. Something to do with moving and transporting, stuff like that. Anyway, so are you perchance a grower looking for patients?
I'm a patient looking for grower.
Darn, another one there. Okay, well, see, that's generally how it goes. So go to our website, mercycenters.org. We have at the top it says forums, and it's a web page that we have with all the forums that you should start the looking process there. We also have a link up there that says meetings and meetups. So all the, like this here, because this is our #1 way that we match up folks. We'll have folks come in during the week, and we generally tell them to come to the Wednesday night meeting. We're working on online ways, other than our bulletin board. We've got bulletin boards on all our pages, our contact page and there's folks there, mostly patients, saying I need a patient. But every now and then you'll see a grower, and they'll put their email address or phone number there. So those are ways to start the process. When you do find someone connecting over the internet or speaking with them on the phone, you'll want to meet up at some neutral place. You try to avoid their garden site if you can. Not too many will offer, and if they do, you kind of want to, because that might present an obligation. They'll be kind of like, well, now you have to sign it because I can't let anybody not know. That's the thing, right? Very rare case, but yeah, I've heard that. And have your the prime parameters are how much medicine you need and how much help you can give. Mm-hmm. Generally, in terms of financial in rent, and folks should be aware that between your grower and you as a patient, you can reimburse for expenses. So anything that they produce a paper for, electric bill, water bill, anything, the
Food bill.
yeah, the grow store, any invoice that they, it's just the labor that gets hung up. And as a patient, networking for medicine until you get growing yourself or find a grower. The same thing. Frequently, patients will sign up with a grower then they can get some medicine from the grower and give them money for rent.
I have.
And then they'll go and repeat that process with another and get medicine and repeat that process. But they
So
stymie
you're
that.
looking for excess medicine at
No,
this time?
I have a grower,
Mhm.
but he pretty much just got up and ran off. And
Oh.
I tried calling OMP just trying to cancel my card from him having it, just so he's not like got all my stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
But they won't even let me do that without having to do the whole change fee,
Right.
$100
Yeah.
or whatever.
Right.
So I'd rather just find a new grower and be able to do it all at once.
Right.
on one
Change it
change
yourself
form.
and then change it over. You don't need $200 on
Exactly. So right now it's just kind of like
that. Yeah.
it's hard.
So the forums, the meetings, the meetups, and then the organizations. Well, go next door at the meeting here after the meeting and grab one of these guys and go through that too. So, yeah. Now, I don't know what the facility. I think that's where we're starting now. Now I can recall.
Yeah.
Short-term
that
memory.
sounds
The facilities may allow, may do this meetings and this patient grower matchup. I don't know what other, services now they can do. As we talked about doing something through that, here, my thinking anyway was that these essential materials, the plants for growing or the medicine itself, while vital, you can't do anything with them, is not all that the community needs. You also need the glycerin to make your tincture with. You also need the oil. You also need the grow foods, the lighting stuff, and all. I mean, I'm sure that it will certainly continue to do our information, networking and exchanging, but on the way, have all the material that you need to accomplish, not just the medicine, not just the plants.
Right.
But that's something we'll see as we get the rules formulated for this MMS. In the meantime, though, your guys' issues remain the same. You want to find some medicine now. You want to get a grower, and get that situation stable.
Mm-hmm.
And aside from helping folks to get growing and then trying to get them in as many patients as possible. Yeah, this is our process.
Yeah. Yep.
So I recommend coming back next Wednesday.
So put down your name and a phone number, and we'll see if we can find you somebody. And he'll come over at this meeting, and after the meeting time, we talk and make arrangements. It might take one meeting, it might take a dozen meetings, but we always have excess medicines for you.
Well, you want to, like I said, have the as many things as you can think of lined up and talk with the potential grower on, and communicate with integrity here. A lot of folks in desperation just going to take the first person that comes along. You should really, have an understanding. I mean, if things are going great, he's got extra, no problem. But what if you agree to 2 ounces and you go through it? Something happens, you lose it. Or what about his crop? What does he have? Any plans? Disaster recovery plans? Do you have any crop failure things? Is he somebody who dismisses that and never happens? Is they in some cases may be too good to be true. I've never had a crop failure. I've always taken care of stuff.
Everybody has vital rot.
The problem is that the best candidates to be the grower aren't looking for patients. In some cases, the person who is say, "Yeah, I'm looking for patients and all." They're not experienced. They're cocky, a little arrogant there, or they are. We've had folks come in and get a bunch of patients and nothing but bad from them. didn't get satisfaction. They don't hear from the person again, and 3 months, 4 months from the time we signed them up, they're back here again saying, that dude was not good.
There's a lot to take into consideration finally too.
Yeah, and they're back on the thing, and now with this fee to change, it's even worse. So we try to get as much, get it from these bad things, get that up there, and talk to the potential growers coming in, educate them, but it's up to the patient ultimately to know what their expectations are, to communicate them honestly. Don't, take it for what right now you're having to go out in the black market or some other means to get your medicine. Whatever that money you're scraping up now, you should say, okay, that's what I can do then. And don't try to fudge that to say, well, maybe I can get a better deal here or something like that, But at the same token, try and get that from the grower. They may have been burned before. They may have been, certainly can't take the patient on the tour of the garden. They may have some of their stuff there for a sample, may not. That may or may not be a good or bad thing. You force that situation, you're liable to end up with them bringing something now that's their primo, and then when this crop comes in, it didn't turn out so well, but that's the way it works out because folks force the
Around
situation.
that time, right?
Yeah. Well, you really, unless you're experienced, you can't guarantee that, or there was a different strain or something, But to present that to the patient with the belief that they're going to be able to repeat it, and then things don't go quite like they want, but that's not ever figured back in.
Right.
Now they've invested. I can't take a loss on this, We'll see if that improves with this new law, this MMFs.
Now, what is that?
The medical marijuana facilities. Think of it as dispensary.
They can be called that now. Is that?
Well, the reason why they're for the terminology is that they're looking at it as a reimbursement. The grower with the excess brings it to the place, and the grower's reimbursed.
Okay.
And then the card holder who comes to get the excess, or whatever card holder brings the medicine, that doesn't have to be the grower themselves. Whatever card holder then reimburses the MMF, the facility, for it. So it's not dispensing, it's not buying and selling. It's more of a consignment
Right.
situation. They're trying to look at it. They're trying to find. So, and I don't know if this is for political purposes or accounting, but so that's the terminology. Hopefully, it will take effect and have an effect.
So what about if it was legalized, or when it's legalized? I think it's going to be legalized.
Mm-hmm.
What about, how would they be, or not dispensaries, but medical facilities, how would they be, played into that? Would they be legalized then
Well, if we look at, either the Colorado or Washington model, they're going to set up stores like the liquor stores for adults to go and purchase their cannabis.
Now, do you have to be a resident of Washington to just go there?
No.
No.
You don't have to be?
So once stores are established in Washington, I expect there's to be this little van that departs from here to go up to take a tour of the closest available space.
So how does that stop people from all around just going there and buying?
Going to Washington, Colorado.
Rows of state troopers on the other side of the Oregon or Idaho or other border, pulling people over, profiling as they've never profiled before,
Oh, I'm sure.
and generally creating the impression that they're going to look for that. In a way, they're hoping that happens, because that will give them a perfect excuse to decry the proliferation of the evil marijuana. I saw a report here that Nebraska is already complaining about the Colorado pot that's coming into their state,
Wow.
which I have to
Well-
laugh at, because
well,
I know
they
folks from Nebraska
say-
and they'll brag on their stuff, man.
They say our reefer goes all the way over to the East Coast.
Yes. Oregon cannabis is in Florida and points beyond and all, which again I have to laugh at, because Oregon Killer Bud, OKGB, Killer Green Bud, has been famous and sought after, prized. So they've been trying to get stuff and going over and bragging they've got Oregon for quite some time. But now it's more politically motivated. Yeah, there's probably some DEA agent who did it and then called and turned himself in or some shit like that, quote unquote. So, but when those happen, when they get the stores in Washington State, for an example, the medical marijuana is going to continue. Fortunately for them, they don't have a registration process like we do here, so it doesn't cost them as much. They just got to get a note from their doctor.
Oh, okay.
There's no networking between card holders, so they have to go to their dispensary, their place. They will continue to do so for the purposes of getting the right medicine for them, usually in the right way. The stores will be processing for general consumption. They won't really be trying to identify and produce strains for conditions. They certainly won't be looking at the best methods of applying it for the patients. They probably won't be pre-producing topical oils, stuff that's applied to patients that way. A lot of things that the patient community is specific to them is not going to be serviced there. It's just not profitable. It will free that up to happen more for across the board, though.
Here, read this testimonial.
And I don't know what our time frame here is.
We got like 5 minutes.
5 minutes left. Okay, so real quickly, let's talk about the can of oil process. It's very simple. You take your container, you take your excess cannabis, and you can use pretty much all the plant. I wouldn't use the root unless you ground it up and threw it in there, but the rest of the plant can go in.
The root is just as good as the stem. You just have to have it clean.
Well, I think cleaned and processed. I don't think as a whole thing it's going to take a while for it to dissolve and get in there. You probably want to process that more than you would the plant, certainly. But take a container, put your excess cannabis in there, whole plant for sure, and then put your extract in there. Your grapeseed oil, your coconut oil, your Crisco oil, your
olive oil.
virgin olive oil. In the container, dark place, in sunlight,
Alice sunlight.
does not good for it. You do want to agitate it, shake it on a regular basis. After 30 days, you'll be able to extract the oil and utilize it cooking internally, topically, especially. We let folks know about this one. This method reduces the toxicity in your system. Certainly aren't going to test very high on the scale. So folks who are concerned about getting high, too buzzed and stuff like that, the elder folks, that's perfect. It gets it right to their joints and stuff when they've got arthritis or other things, other pain, spasticity. They got like a person with Parkinson's, MS, all these things there. Without the concern of, as I said, the toxicity, whether testing for it or affecting them in that way. So that's a really good thing we want to get out there about the oil. You could, in fact, use that with the other methods. Creams like Noxzema, if you have your cannabis, particularly if you are able to separate the trichomes, whether dry ice or something like that, or if you just have a particular batch of sugar leaf, you grind it up enough, mix it in with your Noxzema or your other heavy cream base. Again, let it sit for a time, 30 days is recommended, but the more the better. And then apply it in the same way, I haven't had anybody try it yet, but I'd be interested to see what something like Bengay mixed with cannabis would do. There's something called DMSO. It's an agent that is used to penetrate If you mix something with DSO and put it on your skin, it will go right through the skin and could potentially get into your bloodstream. Such an effective agent for doing that. And I've heard that mixed with cannabis produce effects of that nature.
Now, what's your opinion on Rick Simpson oil?
Rick Simpson oil is very effective. We've heard some great results from it. It is unfortunately cumbersome to make. It is also an element of open flame for it, so there's a risk factor with it. And so for the general population of patients and so forth, we prefer something less difficult to make. But it does concentrate it in a manner that's really high on the scale. Now, another process to do is to use, instead of the solvents that go into, and there's another thing, the solvents used in that, the leftover residue, versus something else like, say, grain alcohol, or what they call the food-based extracts, like your glycerins or your oils. When I say oil, your food-based oils, like your olive oil, blah blah blah, vegetable-based, and so forth, as opposed to petroleum-based or other solvents. You can use butane to create what's referred to as DAB. It's honey oil and stuff like that. That's better than the RSO. It doesn't produce as concentrated as the RSO, but it's better in that it doesn't involve the open flame.
What about CO2?
CO2, or the dry ice
Better
even?
than BHO, as far as for dabs.
It's better. Again, it's what you're using there, that whether it's high grade BHO or lower grades, stuff that's going to end up with residue, leftover solvents and stuff, that's the concern there.
Okay.
Particularly with our patient community.
CO2 would be used. I've never used that.
Yeah. Mostly I've heard about CO2 in the growing process, but in the... Now, dry ice was something I heard about the other day, and I don't know where that is to CO2. No.
You're freezing the cannabis to ultra cold temperature, and you're knocking off the crystals and the triclones that are in the...
So that leads us into hashing then, which is kind of what these processes are. This RSO, the BHO, the dabbing. If those folks out there in TV land will be shutting off here in a moment, hang in there on Video Land. We're not quite done yet. See you later. This has been the Mercy Weekly Meeting. It happens every Wednesday at 1745 Capitol Street Northeast here in Salem. Visit us at our website, mercycenters.org. Give us a call at 503-363-4588. And find out more about the weekly meeting and what it can do for you. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on Mercy TV.
Thank you. Have a good night. You want to say anything before I turn it off, Glenn?
Yes, good night.
Good night. God bless you all, every single one of you.